So all we have to do is to add the Redux. So let's go ahead and add the Redux package. So let's say on add Redux, React-Redux, enter. So that will add these two different packages. So now next what we need to do is let's go ahead and create the context folder. Create a new context folder in the root directory, right click and create a new folder called context. Wait a second, why it's not typing anything. New folder, context. All right, so now we have the context folder. Inside this context folder, now what I need to do is I have to create the actions and I need to create the reducers and I need to create the store. That's what we need to do now. All right, so let's go ahead and create those context actions and everything. So let's create this new folder over here and name that folder as actions. Name that new folder as actions and name that new folder again as reducers. And inside the reducers, so what I need to do, I need to have one more file called index.js. So basically this inside this index.js only we are going to combine all the reducers together, because for a real-time project you're not going to have only one reducer for one action. So we might have a different reducers. So I need to combine all those reducers together. So then inside this context folder, I'm going to create the store.js. All right, so let's jump into the actions first. So we need 3 sets of actions, right? Or at least we need 2 different sets of actions. One is to set the user and another one is to set the user object as null. So let's create that user object over here. So in this case, I'm just going to copy and paste it to avoid the timing. So you guys just pause the video and write this function over here, or you can find this link in the description below, the GitHub link of this project. So you can copy this code and paste it over here. So not in the stores.js, you need to paste this inside the actions. So let's create the actions first. So let's create the user actions.js. Inside the user actions, paste that code. So we have 2 different actions over here. One is set user, another one is set user null. So the function basically it's returning an object which is nothing but type and user. We have this user data which we are sending it from the client side, and we are sending it to the null object. This is the action that we need to save. So save it and close this user action. We don't need that file anymore. Then let's jump into the reducer and create a new file in the reducer folder called user reducer.js. So basically inside the user reducer, what we need to do is we need to create the user reducer. So let's say, let me rename this into user auth reducer. That will be reasonable. User auth reducer. Okay, so here I'm just going to say const user auth. Let me copy this name, copy, paste it. Okay, so here I'm going to call a callback function, open it, and I'm going to export this user auth by default. So export default as the user auth reducer. So inside this, I'm going to send 2 different parameters. One, the state itself, initial state is going to be null, and another one is going to be the action. So basically the action, whatever we are triggering it from the user action side, right? So I'm going to use the switch case over here, switch, and I'm going to say from the action over here in the action, we are sending the type object. So if that action dot type is equals to this case where it is user action, if it is equals to this set user, then I need to return an object which is nothing but all the default state as it is except the user state, and basically I'm going to update the user state from in the user actions. I'm sending this user data, so I'm supplying that data over here. So now the user state will get updated. All right, so then what I need to do is I need to create one more case just like the same way. Copy this and paste it over here. The default is going to be copy this and change the state name, and we need to send the state, and the default user action is going to be null action, null, and all the way by default we need to send all the states together as it is. That's a default case. Okay, so now the user auth reducer is working as it's supposed to be smoothly. Then what we need to do, let's jump into the index.js. As I told you, we need to combine all the reducers together because we can't send every single reducer separately to our store. So we need to combine it, then we need to send it. So I'm just going to import from Redux. I'm going to bring the combine reducer, then import because we need to get the user auth reducer. Let's import it, or we import it automatically from here. So reducer, my reducer is equals to combine reducer. This is a function, and I'm going to supply the object of records. So user, this is the state that we are creating, and for this I'm going to send the user auth reducer, which is imported automatically. Then all I need to do is to export it default, export default my reducer. So save these changes. Now index.js is successfully done. So next thing is we need to move on to the store.js. So let's go to the store.js. So that's the place where we are creating the new store. So let's create it. So import from Redux. So I'm just going to create this object called create store. Then all we have to say const store is equals to create store, and I'm going to supply my reducer which we created from our index.js. Make sure that is imported properly. Then we need to export our store, export default store. Save these changes. Now the store is done. Then what we have to do is we need to jump to the app.js and we need to wrap this complete stuff with the provider data. So we need to get the provider component given by our React Redux package. So let's go here, import from React Redux. It will gives you the provider component. So using this component, we need to wrap this complete stack navigator. So let's import that provider component. So this is having a prop called store property, store prop, and we need to supply our store over here, which is coming from our context store. So then I need to wrap the entire stack navigator inside in it. Save this change. So now it's refreshed and it's not showing any issue. That means the store is successfully created and it is implemented. If you are getting any error, so please drop that error in the comment section. I can help you out with that. All right. So now what I need to do, all I have to do is to sign in one more time. Let's say admin@gmail.com and admin@123. So before signing in, all we have to do is to go to the login screen. So I need to dispatch this into the user state, right? So let's go to the login screen, and let's dispatch. This is the place where we are getting that data. So I need to get the dispatch object. So const dispatch is equal to use dispatch. So basically this dispatch hook will help you to dispatch the action, whatever we created, right? So I need to trigger that action, then only you can perform something in your Redux. So I need to create an object for the use dispatch hook, then I can dispatch the actions. So here I'm just going to say dispatch set user. That's the method which we created, set user action. So to this action we need to send the data. So I'm going to send this data object, copy it, send it. So now we have this data object. All right. So what we have to do is save these changes. So if everything is working perfectly, now without any error, this action will perform. If it is not working properly, we will get an error. Let's see. Let's hope it will work fine. So far no mistakes. So let's try it over here. Admin@gmail.com, admin@123. Let's check the password. If I click sign in, ID, everything is fetched. That means there is no error so far over here, right? So the user state it's completely it's pushed the data to the state, right? So we need to make sure whether the state is working fine or not. It's whether the state is working fine or not. So let's do the console log once again. So far it's not showing any error. So let's check whether it is working perfectly or not. So what is the concept over here is every time once the user successfully logged in, he closed the app again. Once when he opening the app again, he don't want to log in again. We need to validate that refresh token by ourselves. So we need to validate that token. If the token is not validated properly, we need to send the user to the login screen, or else we need to take the user to the home screen. So we can't do that directly in the app.js, because when I'm trying to do it in the inside the app.js, because at that point the store itself it's not even created. So whenever I'm trying to do that, it's showing an error. So to avoid that, to overcome that error, so what I did is we need to create a new screen over here. Let's say splash screen .jsx and rnfe, save it. Let's export it from our index, copy this, save it. So let's go here to app.js, and what we need to do is we need to copy and paste it, and I'm going to change this to splash screen. So I'm going to load the splash screen for very first time. So, and then I'm going to copy it and paste it one more time, and I'm going to say home screen, and that is going to be the home screen. So save these changes. So when I'm reloading it initially, not here, when I'm reloading it initially, it's going to load the splash screen. You can see the splash screen, it's loaded. So let's go here to the splash screen. So let's fix this UI, then I'll show you how to get that user data, because now we know that we signed it successfully, right? So let's go ahead and check that.